It started like any other week. I had just moved into a new apartment, the kind you'd get when you're starting over. Cheap, quiet, and almost too perfect. I didn't have much, just the basics. A bed, a few boxes, and some old furniture I didn't bother replacing. But there was one thing I hadn't expected, something that changed everything. The doll. It was an odd gift from an old aunt I hadn't seen in years, the kind of relative you don't remember until they show up with something strange. It wasn't big, maybe a foot tall, with porcelain skin that was unnervingly smooth, its glassy eyes staring into mine from the shelf in the corner. Its lips were painted in a permanent, tight smile. At first, I thought nothing of it, just a random gift from a distant relative. It wasn't until that first night that I felt a shiver run through me. I didn't think much of it when I woke up, thinking I had just imagined it. But as the days went on, I began to notice the doll never stayed in the same place. Sometimes its position changed slightly, a few inches this way, or a small tilt of the head. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I had knocked it when I was cleaning. But then, things started getting weird. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night, cold sweat on my neck, the usual feeling of unease lingering. I glanced at the shelf instinctively, my eyes locking with the doll's. It was facing me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, checking the clock over and over, trying to rationalize the creeping dread I felt. Around 3 a.m., I finally managed to doze off. But when I woke up again, something was wrong. The doll was no longer on the shelf. It was on my bed, not far from my feet. I froze, my heart skipping a beat as I stared at it, feeling a rush of panic flood my chest. There was no way I could have missed it moving. I didn't get up during the night. I didn't even feel it happen. As the days went by, the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. Every time I walked past the shelf, I would glance at the doll. Every time, it seemed closer. Sometimes, I could feel its eyes on me, even when I wasn't looking directly at it. I thought I was going crazy. One afternoon, I decided I had to do something about it. I wasn't going to let a doll, something that wasn't even alive, control my mind. I took it off the shelf and threw it into the closet, locking the door. That night, I slept a little better, but when I woke up the next morning, the doll was back on the shelf. I wanted to leave the apartment. I even started packing my things, thinking I couldn't stay here another minute. But there was something else that kept me frozen, something that made me hesitate. I kept seeing it in the corner of my eye, no matter where I went in the apartment. The doll was always there, watching me. Even when I was outside, walking to my car, I swore I could see it in the window, standing perfectly still, its glassy eyes fixed on me. It wasn't just the fear that bothered me. It was the loneliness, the isolation of being trapped in this place with something I couldn't explain, something I couldn't outrun. I don't know what it was, but it was real. I could feel it. Then one night, I stayed up late, hoping that if I didn't sleep, I wouldn't have to face the terror that came with the doll. But eventually, I grew tired. I lay back, eyes heavy, and finally drifted off to sleep. I woke up as something I'll never forget. The doll was sitting on the edge of my bed, its cold porcelain hands lightly touching my leg. I didn't even scream. I couldn't. I just stared at it, unable to move, too terrified to act. For what felt like hours, I lay there, waiting for it to do something, waiting for it to speak, to move. But just sat there, staring, watching. The next day, I packed my things and left. I couldn't stay there any longer, couldn't keep pretending that everything was normal. As I left the apartment, I could have sworn I saw the doll's face in the window, a faint silhouette staring back at me. I left the city, but I never forgot. I tried to leave the past behind me, to move on from that apartment, from that doll. But no matter where I went, it lingered. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, feeling that same icy chill, the sense that I was being watched. I thought maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me, that it was all in my head. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had moved into a new place, a small, quiet house in the suburbs. I told myself that it was time to start fresh. But even after everything, I couldn't escape the creeping dread. I avoided antique stores, didn't even glance at dolls in the windows. The thought of owning something like that again was enough to make my stomach turn. But one day, while I was unpacking some boxes in my new place, I found it. The doll. It was buried at the very bottom of a box, wrapped in an old, dusty cloth. My heart stopped as I recognized it instantly. I hadn't even realized I had packed it. How had it made its way here? My hands trembled as I unwrapped the doll, its cold porcelain face staring up at me, just like before. Its eyes were fixed on me, unblinking, as if it had been waiting all this time, silently observing me. I thought about throwing it away, burning it, anything to get rid of it. But I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I placed it on a shelf, far from the bed, thinking that maybe it would be different this time. Maybe I was just overthinking everything. That night, I fell asleep, exhausted from the emotional weight of the day. But when I woke up, it was sitting on my nightstand, right next to me. I was paralyzed with fear, my breath caught in my throat. How had it gotten there? I hadn't moved it. I hadn't even gotten out of bed. My body was frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. The only thing I could do was stare at it, waiting for something, anything to happen. The doll didn't move. It didn't speak. It just sat there, as still and cold as ever. But the longer I stared at it, the more I felt something shift in the air. It was subtle at first, like the temperature in the room dropping a few degrees. Then I noticed something strange. The doll's smile, once fixed and tight, seemed different. It was wider now, almost mocking, as though it knew something I didn't. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed up my things again, desperate to escape. But before I could leave, something strange happened. The door wouldn't open. No matter how hard I tried, it wouldn't budge. I felt trapped, like the walls were closing in around me. That suffocating feeling from the apartment had returned. Only this time, I couldn't run. I tried everything, shaking the door, pulling on the handle, but nothing worked. The house felt smaller, the air heavier. The only sound was the distant ticking of a clock, louder than it had ever been before. And all the while, I could feel the doll's presence, watching, waiting, always just out of reach. Suddenly, the doll was in front of me, standing at the edge of the door. I didn't see it move. I couldn't tell if it had always been there, or if it had materialized out of thin air. But it was there, and it was smiling. I screamed. I don't remember much after that. I remember the terror, the desperation, but I don't remember how I escaped. All I know is that when I left the house, I never looked back. I couldn't. But every so often, when I'm alone in a quiet room, I feel it. The chill in the air, the feeling of being watched. And I know, wherever I go, the doll is always there, waiting.